The super technical term is anabolic androgenic steroids. And all they are synthetic or man-made versions of the primary male sex hormone, testosterone. The stuff that makes bulls bulls. It's that increase in, rather significant increase in testosterone that quantifies or creates adolescence, how boys turn into men. It's what masculinizes men, and that's the androgenic part. And the anabolic part is meaning tissue building, muscle building. And so that's why the technical term is anabolic androgenic steroids. All they are synthetic versions of testosterone.
I would imagine as you look at the youth market relative to steroid use, beginning in probably 7th, 8th grade is when young people are trying to make their individual teams at their high schools or their junior high schools. The competition is very steep and they want to be a part of an organization, they want to be part of the team.
Virtually nobody uses one injection of a steroid or one pill. It wouldn't do anything. It has no purpose. So when I say that back in the 1988, 500,000 kids use these drugs, I mean 500,000 kids cycled on it. What's a cycle of steroid use? It's an episode of use of 6 to 12 weeks or more duration. So that means that back then 500,000 kids had cycled on anabolic steroids. What do we know today? Well, I would say that figure conservatively is 750,000 of our young boys and girls have cycled at least one time during their short lives on these drugs. Most common effects are changes in their physique or their athletic performance that go dramatically beyond what you could achieve naturally. So if all of a sudden you see your kid in a 6-8 week period put on 10-15 pounds of muscle, that's not going to happen naturally. In performance, all of a sudden you see, your kid's bench pressing 175 pounds, and all of a sudden, in a short period of time after they've been lifting, they're up at 225 or 250. That's not going to happen naturally. Another thing that you will see is all of a sudden a kid will become fixated on their body image. They'll be strength training and concern about their diet and their physique. Consume them. It's their whole life. When I see that, red flags go up. But here's the problem. There's no doubt in my mind that many of the people who use these drugs become psychologically dependent on it. Well, what does that mean? It means you keep using them. Well, if you keep using the drug from one cycle to another, all those short-term effects don't go back to normal because you're still using the drug. In some individuals, and I don't think we know what's going on, these drugs play a significant role in either attempts at suicide or actual suicide.
My son was held accountable. He paid the ultimate price. He died. He would always tell us, "Dad, these guys are big. You don't understand. These guys are 320, 350 pounds. I'm only 280 pounds." So he felt to be able to compete at that level, he needed to even get bigger.
He was working and he needed some money for lunch, and so I went there and I gave him a few dollar bills, and I gave him some quarters because I didn't want to stop at the ATM because I have the baby and I don't want to go outside and have the baby, with me. And I gave him some change and he threw it right back at me. He threw it right at me.
He would always apologize and he would even cry. So he would go from that real anger stage to this gentle, caring, and apologetic young man that we knew. That's who he was.
I was shocked when Efren told us that he was doing steroids.
We weren't very aware of steroids anyways. That was something that I didn't believe, didn't know that it was a problem in our youth. Didn't really discuss it with our son Efren, except for an occasion when he talked about creatine and andro, and we told him, because he said Mark McGuire used it, and we told him no, he can't use that. He was in his room more often, that he was sleeping longer more often, and having less interaction with us. Again, I had not known that. I believe now when I look at that, he was slowly going into this deep depression, and he was isolating himself from the family.
One of the biggest problems I run into, and my colleagues have run into, are denial. You know, it's always somebody else's kid, it's always somebody else's team, somebody else's school. And you see that at the high school level, the college level, and the professional level.
We really, I think, need to increase just the whole awareness and educational aspects of it, and to make sure that we reach out to parents and to student athletes and coaches and make sure they understand the dangers of participating in the use of illegal performance-enhancing drugs.
I think we need to go put more attention on education, but I think we need to go beyond it. We all have a stake in this, and as good citizens, we all have an obligation to help on these issues.